And so I'm very excited to share with you today. This is an ES copy from the pre-lawsuit era, circa around 1970. And this is a Bruno Conqueror. It was made in Japan at the Matsumoto factory, and very excited. It's in a red burst. So super cool vintage guitar that I picked up for a great price on eBay. So stay tuned as we take a look at this ES copy made in Japan pre-lawsuit guitar. Alright, take a look at this vintage beauty. A guitar named Fran. You might end up finding yourself asking if Fran has a friend out there. Because, man, this is vintage. Vintage. It's always a interesting experience to hold a guitar that is older than you are. And I've just had the pleasure of having a few go through my hands. But this is absolutely gorgeous guitar. And, you know, it's going to need some TLC. It's going to need a little work. But, you know, one of the biggest off the, out of the gate is that tuner right there is bent. But tuners are easy. There's plenty of, cleanup that can be done here. But just looking at overall presentation, I mean, absolutely gorgeous. And there's the made in Japan stamp there. It's got a very gentle carve on the back, so it's not totally flat. It is actually carved out. It's a arch back, and beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I'm going to let this settle in. You can see it's been played quite a bit because there's lots and lots and lots of light scratches here. So this guitar has seen some use over the years, some significant use, and yet, I mean, presents itself very, very nicely. I've got some really cool features about this guitar to take a look at. One is the really neat, well done job in the neck. You can see there's a subtle stripe in there. It goes all the way up to the head. See? And of course this is a pre-lawsuit, and the most obvious distinction in the pre and post lawsuit is the headstock shape. That the open book style Gibson was able to lock that down. And even though obviously copies of every stripe continue on, there are ways, particularly the headstock, that distinguish brands. And so that was a major deciding feature. So this is pre-lawsuit, again, sometime around 1970, and very, very interesting. So a lot of the made in Japan guitars had what's called a 0 fret. You see that's right in front of the nut there. And the 0 fret, it's just a different design. It allows where it's pulling, the nut is pulling over that fret, so it's actually causing the 0 note, the open note, as a fretted note rather than the nut. Another thing is that it allows the nut to be cut much wider because it's not actually holding the string, so you're not going to get the weird harmonics and stuff. So the nut, so this allows, particularly on like the Gibson headstock style, it allows those middle strings to have a real nice wide, smooth, open channel, and you just don't have the same nut problem. So it's a different thing. You see that on a lot of Japanese guitars from this era. Honestly, I don't know why you don't see that more. I just really don't. Maybe you guys can enlighten me on that. Something else that I noticed is that even though this is incredibly thin, it's very, very thin, which makes it very lightweight, and even though it's got a reasonably large body, it doesn't feel heavy, even just, sitting holding it like this on my leg. And I need to, it's still settling in. so the tuning stability is not there yet. I'm just initially impressed with the acoustic projection out of such a very, very thin guitar. I'm not saying it's like on the level of an acoustic, but it is more than I expected coming out of this very, very thin guitar. Now this was intended to have a tremolo, and the previous owner stuck a Telecaster knob in there and made it a hardtail basically. That's fine with me. I don't really use a whole lot of vibrato. I tend to do more bends and, you know, vibrato with my fretting hand. I don't use the bar near as much. But this has got a really nice roller bridge on it with, you can see each roller has multiple grooves on it. And what that allows for is even more careful placement, so you can have the strings, if you want them a little tighter, you can make them a little tighter. If you want them wider, you can make them wider. That's pretty awesome. And that's a really, this guitar strikes me as they were trying to make for the era, a premium style guitar with some premium aspects to it for the budget market, you know. And so one of the things is it's a bolt-on neck. It's not a set neck, which, you know, I prefer bolt-ons just because it mitigates issues of if you break the neck or head, you can just replace the neck. That's why you see on eBay so many broken head, you know, set necks. They're just all over the place. So, you know, and it makes manufacturing simpler. The manufacturing on this is really excellent. But nice features like it's double bound, the binding matches this, it's got the double stain going up the neck, it's a burst instead of a solid tone, and it's a you know, slightly translucent burst, so you look in close, you can see some wood grain, and it has 4-ply on both the pick guard and the truss rod cover. And so these are just, you know, little aspects, little refining aspects. This very, very nice bridge, and it's, you know, it's producing a really cool tone because it's got the, you know, hardwood base, but then goes up into the rollers on the saddles. Very cool. And you know, I'll be interested to see how these vintage voice humbuckers sound. And you know, the inside of the F-hole is very nicely done with the binding. I mean, it's very, very nicely done. Considering that this is a 50-plus-year-old instrument, it is in remarkable shape. I've seen much worse, much younger, and this is not just sat in a closet. It's received a lot of play. So that tells me it's a durable guitar. It's a guitar that is good enough that someone played many, many hours on it, and it's weathered all of that. Even the bent tuner, it still holds tune, even though it must have gotten dropped and that tuner got bent right there, but it's still holding to. I did some digging and read some articles and some chatter on forums and stuff about these, and very impressed with what I saw. I paid for this about what a new like baseline Grote, you know, semi-hollow would go for, and I'd much rather have this. So this is awesome. I love these old vintage guitars and the made in Japan vintage guitars. My overall just impression of them is that yes, they were cutting corners in certain ways. That was how they were underselling the American manufacturers, the kind of old school manufacturers, but they were also innovating a lot of things that made for better craftsmanship and machining and so forth, which is why there was the pushback in the 70s, and ultimately the, you know, American market corrected, and the American, you know, they had to keep up with this, and so they had to put out a better product in order to keep that higher price tag. And so excellent example of vintage pre-lawsuit made in Japan. This is again an ES copy named Fran. So thanks for watching, and check back in. I'm going to have follow-ups. I've got 2 more parts coming up on this guitar. Part 2 is going to show you the restoration process that I put this guitar through, and then part 3 is going to give you a variety of tone samples. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Check back in. Check out the channel. I've got lots of different content on lots of different topics, and thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.